Hello everybody and welcome to Bird's Nest Designs. My name is Denise Cox and I am your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Canada. And today I'm going to share with you this super fun card, which is going to be featured in my In Color Club. This is one of 3 cards, so there will be a series of videos all featuring Starry Sky and Seize the Day bundle. So let's get started. So those of you in my In Color Club will already have your prepared kit. For those of you that are not, I will give you the dimensions. So we've got a regular size card base, which is just 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Then we have a piece of Highland Heather, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4. Isn't that so pretty together? Then we've got, oh, where'd it go? A piece of Old Olive. And a piece of, this is just a scrap piece because we're going to do some die cutting. And then we've got some basic white. So we've got a piece that's 4 by 5 1/4, which is going to be the inside of the card. And another piece that's 3 3/4 by 5, which is going to be what we're going to use to do the stamping. And then again, we've got just another little tiny scrap here to do some stamping on. And we've got the rectangular postage punch out. So those in the club will already have this punched out ready to go. All right, so those are pieces. Now let's get started to make this super fun card. So the first thing we're going to do is fold the card base on the score line with the bump to the inside. Okay, so just lining up those corners, which should be right on that score line. We're going to use our bone folder and give that a nice crisp fold. And then we're doing a landscape card this time. So now we're going to take the 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of basic white, and we'll just adhere that into the middle using our Stampin' Seal. So this just makes it really easy to write on the inside of your card, because as you can imagine, this bright, dark, starry sky would be hard to see your writing on. So we've got that attached to the inside. Now we're going to take our Highland Heather, and we're going to attach that right on the front so we have an even border all the way around. And for those of you watching along, don't worry too much if you've missed the measurements. You can always go back and check in the description of the video, and they'll be listed there along with all of the products that I've used in today's video. So once we've got the Highland Heather panel attached to the front, we're going to set it aside and we're going to bring in the 3 3/4 by 5 basic white and do some super fun stamping. So one of the things that I love about the Seize the Day bundle, and particularly the stamp set, is how we can make some really fun stamp background paper all on our own just by using stamps and ink. So this one is available in the January to June mini catalog for 2022. So you've got till the end of June, if you don't already have this wonderful set in your collection, to place that order and add it, because it is a wonderful set. All right, so we need lots of images, as you can see. The first thing we're going to start with is the octopus right here. So before I get too far ahead, let's just let you know what stamp ink pads we're going to use. So we've got Starry Sky, let's do it this way, Starry Sky, Highland Heather, and Poppy Parade. And we also have Old Olive, Pool Party, and Mango Melody. So all of these are going to make for this nice, rich, bright card. So to start, we'll do the octopus like I mentioned, and we're going to use Highland Heather. Going to set this card aside. Oops, domino effect there. Okay, so now let's just ink up this octopus. And we're just going to stamp. Again, there's no rhyme or reason. We're just stamping these images randomly. Okay. So we're just going to put a couple of octopus because he is quite a large image. I don't want to take up too much of the space. So then we're going to use Old Olive. So we've got that one here. And let's set these aside. We're going to use this wonderful foliage stamp. So this could be like seaweed or any kind of sea foliage, whatever you want it to be. So we're going to use that in Old Olive. And I love how these stamps stamp so beautifully because they're a nice, that distinctive stamp. So lots of shading and dimension within the images. And it doesn't matter if they overlap. It's part of the beauty of creating this designer paper. So again, fairly large image, so I don't want to overdo it with it. So just a bit here and there. I like the way that's looking. And then we're going to use our starfish. So starfish we're going to do in Mango Melody. I've got that one ready to go here as well. We'll just stamp a few. And make sure that when you're stamping that you're going off the edge to make it look really random. It helps to add to the whole effect that we're creating here. Okay, so we've got that. Set that one aside. And then we're going to do the small fish. So you noticed in the stamp set, there is a slightly larger and a smaller fish. So we're going to start with the smallest one here. And we're going to use Poppy Parade. We're just going to stamp a few of these guys. Now I just re-inked this Poppy Parade. So I just want to see how it's going to stamp before we get, okay, good. I just didn't want to, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be way too dark. So there we go. Stamp some of those guys. Perfect. While we're at it, I am going to pull out my little scrap piece I mentioned of basic white because we are going to need to stamp on that. And one of the things we want to stamp is this cute little crab. And we're going to once again stamp him in Poppy Parade. But we're going to stamp him on this scrap paper because we're going to fussy cut or die cut him out and pop them up on our card. All right, so we've done with the Poppy Parade. Now let's use the beautiful Starry Sky. This is the brand new 2022-2024 in color. I love it. It is absolutely gorgeous. That's not, here we go. So we're going to use the larger fish for this one. And we're just going to kind of fill in. Doesn't that stamp beautifully? Oh, I love it. Okay, let's snap one kind of over top of the starfish there. Maybe one over here. That's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. So we'll leave that as is. And then I am going to stamp one more of these fish over onto our scrap paper. All right. So I'm not going to put that ink pad away yet because we are going to stamp one more thing. But first, let's stamp in Pool Party. We're going to stamp these little air bubbles. And I'm just going to randomly stamp them to fill them in on our paper. And I want to show you a little trick when we're doing this. So you can see that this image is quite long. And we're not always going to want that many bubbles. So what we're going to do, just give me one sec here. I'll just finish stamping where I can. And you notice that I'm kind of turning the stamp and some are going off the edge and some aren't. We could probably sneak one right in there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean my stamp. So I'm just going to put some of this inker. And then I like to just use a microfiber cloth once that Stampin' Mist is on there and just clean it off. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, now this is nice and clean. So if I only want a couple little bubbles, then I'm just going to line up the stamp to the edge of the ink pad where I want it. So I want the cluster of 3 and those 2 bubbles. So I've just got ink on this part. And then when I go and put that down here, I'm only going to ink those little bits. So we can continue to do that for as many times as we want, just that configuration of bubbles. And then of course you can clean it again and shorten it or widen that inked section. If that makes, hope that makes sense. So like I said, I'm just inking up little parts, putting them where I want them. And then I'm going to just spin this a little bit. I'd like to put a few more here coming in from the top. All right, so there we go. That, oh, it looks like it needs some right there, doesn't it? So let's just ink up a couple of them. Now, where did I say? Right here? There we go. Okay, so that's that part completed. Now I want to use my rectangular postage stamp here. And a little trick that I always use when I'm stamping on a small white piece like that is I just take a scrap piece of cardstock, any color other than white, and place the white piece on there. So it gives me a clearer way, a better way to see where I'm stamping. So I've got the thanks from the depths of my heart, and I'm going to stamp that with this beautiful Starry Sky. Just like that. Perfect. All right, so now we're done with all of the ink pads, so I'm just going to get those off to the side. Okay. So we can go ahead on that card base we started, pull that back in, and we can go right ahead and attach this to the front. I'm just trying to keep an even border all the way around, like so. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of die cutting. This is going to get added later. We're going to do some die cutting. So with the beautiful C dies, and I've got them all here on a magnetic sheet, and this piece also is part of it, but it kind of covers that up. So this is really, really pretty. We've got that piece. We're going to cut out both the crab and the fish. So that's the larger fish. And I also want to cut out our accent pieces. So we're going to cut out the foliage, that big one, and this little guy here. So let me just show you that. Now, I'm super excited to share with you this brand new magnetic platform. So this is brand new in the annual catalog. The whole sheet is magnetic, so there's no more jumping around framelets trying to find the magnetic spots. So when you make the sandwich, it goes number 1, so that's your base plate, then number 5, which is your magnetic plate, printed side up, and then you're going to put your cardstock this way with your dies, and you'll see how nicely those magnet down. So this just has to go on a bit of an angle, and then that one can go. Ooh. Like so. There we go. And then we're going to take this one and we're going to line up those images. And what's beautiful about the magnetic platform is that those are going to just stay right in place. So I'm sliding it where I want it so it's evenly, completely lined up. And then there we go. So then to finish the sandwich off, you're just going to put number 3 on top, like so. And then we can put it through the stamp cut and emboss machine. And I've just got mine off to the side here. And spin that through. Okay, so here we've gone, I've just run that through. Now, of course, if you don't have the C dies, you could always just fussy cut these guys out. But the dies make it so much nicer. So that has, so my paper's stuck inside my die here a little bit, but that's what these little holes here are for. So if you have a pick tool of some sort, you can just poke through and that's going to peel right out. And that one didn't stick in, so we'll just pop that guy out. Okay, so we're done with the die cut machine. And now what we're going to do is just assemble this pretty card. Let's put my dies back so I don't lose them. Okay, so here we go. So now for this part, you're going to need some Stampin' Dimensionals. You may want to have both sizes if you have them both. So the large regular ones and then the small minis. If you don't have the minis, don't worry. You can use just the larger ones and you can cut them in half as well. So you don't need to, but the mini ones do make it very, very easy. Okay, so with some scissors, you're going to need a pair of scissors because what we're going to do is we're going to cut apart this third foliage piece here. Okay, and don't worry about how perfect it looks because this side is going to be hidden on both pieces. So we're just cutting it apart like that. Okay. And then we have the smaller one here. So with some dimensionals, let's go ahead and we're going to stick this down. Oh, I don't. So we're going to stick this foliage down. And I want it to come as far up the card as I can. So just like that. And what I'm going to do is instead of trying to fussy glue, because it's not my favorite thing to do, I'm going to just hold that in place with the Stampin' Dimensional. And it's going to be multi-purpose because that same dimensionals are what's going to hold my postage stamp in place. So because those are on the left side, I'm going to put one more here on the center on the right side. I'll go ahead and I'll pull these off. And then we'll just put that down where we want it. Okay, so there's that. We of course can just trim this stem off. I don't really want to have that hanging out the bottom. And then on this one, we are going to need a little bit of fussy glue. So I'm just going to put a little bit of multi-purpose glue in there like so. And then we'll tuck that right in under the postage stamp to hide all those little edges that we cut. So those are hidden in behind there. And now what we've done is we've taken one die cut and we've just sort of spread it out to make it cover more of the area. And then lastly, we're going to attach this beautiful little foliage to our white postage stamp. And the best way to do that is going to be to just put a little bit of multi-purpose glue here and here. And attach that, make sure it's touching your paper. And then once again, we don't want the stem hanging off our card, so we'll just trim that up so it's even with the purple, the Highland Heather at the bottom there. All right, so now last thing to do is to bump up and add these little extras that we did. And I'm going to put them both on a Stampin' Dimensional. I think that will work. So you don't actually need the mini ones for this card. Everything is big enough to put the larger ones on. Oops, the larger ones under. Okay. So now what I like to do is look at what's left of my card and figure out where I want to put these guys. That's going to cover up any blemishes I had or any, you know, spots that look like they could use a little something. So, oops, I don't want to stick that down there. So I'm not crazy about the way that is overlapping. So I'm going to show you a trick there. Let's put the crab aside. My brain is going in a different direction. So now we're going to take this fish and we're going to pop that fish up over top of this fish. And what that does is it creates a layer. So now it looks like the starfish is in behind that one as opposed to being layered over top. And then our crab can come up here because this is looking a little bare up here to me. And he can just be kind of hanging out up there. So there we go. There is this beautiful thanks from the depths of my heart card that we created using the Seize the Day stamp set, the sea dies, which we used here, and the beautiful, beautiful new Starry Sky in color. I just love this color so much. It's so rich and bold, and it just pops with those fish on there. So thank you so much for watching along for the tutorial. I hope that you've enjoyed this and it left you feeling inspired to pull out your Seize the Day stamp set and create a card of your own. Until next time, cheers everyone!